So, man, where do I start? So, the couples stuff has been really fun.
Mhm,
Mainly because we have a couple of big surprises coming.
mhm.
And maybe I'll come back and share them once we
Ooh,
do our
yeah.
formal announcement. But really big, having done this for, I don't know, 10 years now,
Mhm,
a lot of our couples, they come back and they're like, hey, can you guys do this? Hey, can you do that? Or
mhm.
some couples really ask, like, we want to meet the other people that you've worked with. We want to
Oh, that's
we want to
nice.
connect with other couples, right? Because I think part of the whole relationship piece that is
Yeah,
a struggle for
yeah.
anybody that's in relationship
Mhm.
is who's my community and my tribe that I
Yes.
can trust, right? So like
Mhm,
as women, we may have, or even as men, you may have a crew.
mhm.
That's your crew. That's the person that you talk to, that you hang out with. And maybe all you talk or hang out around are things that are connected to the what your interests are.
Yeah.
But then there's a relationship side where you're like, you may want to hang out with other couples,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
That either are in the same space that you're in, or they're ahead of their relationship, might be ahead in terms of maturity.
mhm.
And so a lot of couples, they always come to us and they're like, man, we want to connect with other couples.
Oh, so you gotta do a retreat.
So we're thinking, well, we don't know, maybe
That's
not.
what I feel. I feel like that there's gonna be a little retreat coming.
And maybe, but it's an opportunity for couples
Yeah.
to meet and have fun and connect for
And bond,
themselves
yeah, and bond. Yeah,
and
bond in like
bond.
the struggles of everything, right?
There it is. And not feel like you're alone. Because
Yes.
you could really, we were talking before about parenting. You
Yeah.
could really feel like you're alone in the
Mhm,
parenting process because you're like, man, am I doing something wrong?
mhm.
Or is it just something in the water? So I think when it comes to relationships, you could feel alone. Like, am I the only one that's having these issues? Or are we the only ones having
Yeah,
these?
and then you wanna hear, like, other people's perspective or like, "Okay, let me tell you what's happening. I need your opinion of it. Like, am I going crazy or, is this, us or is it him? Is it me?" Or whatever it is.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And what are you guys doing, right? So it's also that how can we resolve and create solutions that maybe we haven't even thought of, but
Mhm.
over here there's another couple, wow, they went through similar situation and we didn't even think about doing what they've done.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to connect and grow around commonality, but
Mhm.
also to learn
Yeah,
from each other.
yeah.
So that's we're really excited about what we're doing around that. And
Mhm.
matter of fact, I think this Saturday we drop something really fun that we're gonna do.
Mhm.
As well. How have you been?
I'm good. How are
Yeah.
you?
You know, and like ready for like life and school and all that stuff
Mhm.
to slow down so
Yeah,
that like you can have like a reset and it's
yeah.
not like,
It seems like a little crazy, right?
yeah, what are your kids doing for the summer?
Right now we usually see my sister when she comes from Florida, and we always meet at her family's like beach house for like 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
And then she comes to me and stays meet with me for like 1 week. So it'll just be like cousins and family time. Yeah.
Back and forth. That's
Hmm.
how we used to do it old school back in the day.
Yeah, because like when like it bothers me a little bit when everyone's so like, so what are your kids doing? I'm like, listen, back in the days we had no money and we didn't do jack shit.
We rode our bikes
Yeah.
to each
So
other's houses.
yeah. Yeah. So to me, like when people ask, what are you doing? I'm like, same thing I did
Nothing.
when I was a kid, nothing. Nothing. They have their cousins. They will figure out what the hell to do with their time.
Yeah, they'll be okay.
I'm like, I turned out well, so they're gonna be fun too.
Hmm.
Is school over? right now?
For my son, he was in private school, and school. First, he had to do his rites of passage project, which was hiking in the Appalachian Mountain.
What?
Yeah, for a
Really?
whole week.
That is
Mhm.
phenomenal.
Oh yeah, his entire freshman class was like 100 something young men,
Yeah.
broken up into small groups, and they
Yeah.
had like a team leader who is a like an upperclassman. They've been training since April,
Mm-hmm.
with what are they called? I'm drawing a blank. Navy SEALs. So the Navy
Wow.
SEALs come in, and for like 3-4 weeks,
Yeah.
they like learn CPR, they learn how to navigate, they learn hiking,
Oh.
direction,
Yeah, how to
all
be
of
a
that.
man, or survival tactics, like Boy Scouts shit.
Practice.
Mhm.
So a week before they did their full 5 days in the mountains, they did 3 days as a practice.
Mhm.
And then they had to come back, debrief as a team. What did we do well? What did we not do so
Wow,
well?
that's fucking fun. I love that. That's amazing that you have like some serious lessons there from Navy SEAL people.
Oh yeah. Oh
Mhm.
yeah. And the tradition, the school has been doing this like the last, I don't know, 35 years or something like that. So
Do they, do they do this with girls too?
the school was all boys up
Okay.
until 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And one of the Catholic school girls, all girls schools got shut down.
Mhm.
And it was so amazing because the girls scheduled an appointment with the headmaster of my son's school, and they petitioned and asked him to take over their school.
Wow.
And he agreed. So as of
Wow.
the second year of the girls division, so there's a girls division and there's a boys division, and the girls did their Appalachian hike like a week before the boys.
That's amazing. That is amazing. That is phenomenal. I love that.
Oh yeah, it's it is, it has its ups and downs,
Mhm.
because as a parent you're like, what? They're like, where are the adults? The adults are there, but they're along like these checkpoints.
No.
Yeah, so the adults aren't walking with them.
No?
No, I think it's 155
What?
miles. It's 55 miles. So there are checkpoints along the way, and the adults are waiting at the checkpoints to make
No.
sure that
Real
oh yeah.
holy shit. So they're literally doing like
You thought the adults were with?
yeah, yeah,
No, no,
yeah. I thought the adults were with them through this
no.
trip.
The adults are there. They're in the area,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
communicating with the upperclassmen, senior team
Mhm,
leader.
mhm.
So there's communication there,
But they're
but
not with them. I thought it'd be like,
no,
Boy Scouts, they're
no,
like
no,
the
no.
only with
Navigating through each section of the hike, they're by themselves.
Wow.
And then when they get to the main checkpoint, the adults are there. They pitch their tents. They, they don't,
Eat and do a fire and all that stuff.
they sleep outside. They
Mhm.
have their sleeping bags. They cook, they have to come prepared with whatever food they're going to eat.
Yeah.
Um, he ate a lot of cup of noodle soup
Yeah.
that week, a lot of oatmeal.
Yeah, yeah,
And then, he had to figure out what his hygiene was going to be,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Was he going to like, ironically, am I going to shower every day? Am I going to use
yeah,
wipes one day? And like,
yeah,
am I going to
yeah,
use the bathroom? Am I going to hold myself? Because they're taught how to like dig holes so
yeah.
that they can use the bathroom.
Mhm.
The
Yeah, it's like full survival Boy Scouts.
whole end of his school year,
Ah, okay,
which was the week after Memorial Day.
okay.
And then they went back for 1 week,
Mhm,
and he had to do a write-up because they were supposed to keep a journal every day.
mhm.
So then he had to submit a term paper
Mm,
documenting what he learned,
mhm,
what was the value of it.
mhm.
And once he submitted all of that,
Yeah.
it was done.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Now, how was he any different before and after coming back
Oh
from
yeah.
there? Yeah?
Oh yeah. My son is like really, really, let me say that. He was very quiet.
Mm,
So he's more of an observant kid. So he'll
yeah,
walk into spaces. He's
yeah,
observing, but he's not necessarily going to be like jump in.
yeah.
Um, And that's one of the reasons why we wanted him to have the experience, because we
Yeah.
wanted him to find his voice,
Yes.
to become a leader.
Mhm.
So yeah, I tell everybody, I have pictures of him when we dropped him off and when he came back, and he
Yeah.
literally looks like a man.
Yeah, that's
You know what it is too? It's twofold, right? It's the younger sibling, which like you, I was as well, and always feeling like you're in the shadow of,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Your older
Yeah.
siblings, particularly for me, my brother right above me, which I think your sister was right above you, right?
Yeah,
And
she's
then
3
your
years
brother.
older. 3 years older.
Same thing with my brother. Like
Mhm.
he was like a genius.
Yeah.
So he was like
Yeah.
really, really smart,
Mhm.
honor student, straight A's.
Yeah, that's my brother
Didn't
and sister. Both of
didn't
them
have
were.
to work hard
Yeah.
academically, where I was like, you know,
Well, yeah, that's me too. Like my brother and sister were the brainiacs. They got the straight A's, and I could never do. I could never get my straight A's. Even if I studied so hard, I would get a B, or B plus, but never. I don't. Maybe some A's, but like it was very rare and far in between. And I just always felt like I was never enough. You know. So that's like a constant like issue that I'm trying to fix in my brain of like not feeling enough. And I feel like I know. All right. Welcome to the Art Hustle Gallery of Conversations. Welcome back here. I'm so excited. Another conversation of all of these like things that you're doing lately. So like this is like a little catch up because I've seen you on social media. You've been doing your like dope chicks journey and then your relationship like advice.
yeah.
So get us a little up to date to what's happening.
Ooh. So man, where do I start? So the couples stuff has been really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because we have a couple of big surprises coming.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'll come back and share them once we
Ooh,
do
yeah.
our formal announcement. But really big, having done this for, I don't know, 10 years now,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of our couples, they come back and they're like, hey, can you guys do this? Hey, can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Or some couples really ask, like, we want to meet the other people that you've worked with.
That's
We
nice.
want to connect with other couples, right? Because I think part of the whole relationship piece that is a struggle for
Yeah.
anybody that's in relationship
Mm-hmm.
is who's my community and my tribe
Yes.
I can trust, right? So like as women, we may have, or even as men, you may have a crew.
Mm-hmm.
That's your crew. That's the person that you talk to, that you hang out with. And maybe all you talk or hang out around are things that are connected to what your interests are.
Yeah.
But then there's a relationship side where you're like, you may want to hang out with other couples,
Mm-hmm.
right? That either are in the same space that you're in, or they're ahead of their relationship, might be ahead in terms of maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of couples, they always come to us and they're like, man, we want to connect with other couples.
Oh, so you got to do a retreat.
So we're thinking, well, we don't know, maybe not.
That's what I'm feeling. I feel like that there's gonna be a little retreat coming.
And maybe, but it's an opportunity for couples to meet and have fun and connect for themselves.
And bond. Yeah, bond in like the struggles of everything, right?
There it is. And not feel like you're alone.
Yes.
Because you could really, we were talking before about parenting. You could really feel like you're alone in the parenting process because you're like, man, am I doing something wrong? Or is it just something in the water? So I think when it comes to relationships, you could feel alone. Like, am I the only one that's having these issues, or are we the only ones having
this? And then you want to hear like other people's perspective, or like, okay, let me tell you what's happening. I need your opinion of it. Like, am I going crazy, or is this us, or is it him, is it me, or whatever it is.
And what are you guys doing, right? So it's also that how can we resolve and create solutions that maybe we haven't even thought of, but over here there's another couple, wow, they went through similar situation and we didn't even think about doing what they've done. It's an opportunity to connect and grow around commonality, but also to learn from each other. So that's we're really excited about what we're doing around that. And matter of fact, I think this Saturday we drop something really fun that we're going to do, as well as the tips. We've been giving out tips recently
Yeah.
around communication because that's like one of the number one
Problem between
girl. Yes.
between
Not
everybody,
listen,
everybody, everybody,
everybody,
Mhm.
everybody, right?
Everybody.
So particularly when we think about what's going on in our world.
Exactly.
And
Everybody are not like communication is the
Mhm.
huge problem.
Oh yeah. And people are so quick to emotionally
Yeah.
go to their instincts, right?
Mhm.
Which is we're supposed to be the evolved beings on the planet,
Mhm. But
right? Like,
no, we're not. No.
no.
Because majority of us are unconsciously going through life and just on autopilot. So you're just drawing on the resources of like survival techniques of like this happened to me, so I'm going to react to you from what happened to me in the past. So your reactions aren't present at all either these days.
Mm-mm.
You know,
No.
it's a
Scary.
pre
Predetermined.
yes, predetermined or whatever it is, like you already have it in your head of like what's going to happen, and you're
Mhm.
reacting to it just from your previous experience when really that person didn't mean it that way, you know.
No, no. And it's I think it damages relationships, right? We started talking about like couples because that's what we're doing, but I think in general it damages our relationships.
Hmm.
It challenges how we grow in relationship when
Yeah,
we are so reactive.
yeah,
When
when
we
people
are,
come in with like a lot of baggages too, and then you
oh yeah.
expect them to be like, listen, I have these baggages and I expect you to like not
Mhm.
not ruffle these baggages, keep them in perfect condition, don't fuck with them, you
No,
know.
because I like it. I like my
Yeah,
baggage.
it's
It's
like this.
cute.
Yeah.
I bought a nice bag
Mhm.
for it.
I got
It's
an LV bag, I got a Gucci bag. Don't fuck with it. It's pretty. Don't touch it. And then you need to
I
like
got my
work
travel
around it. You gotta work
suitcase. I got
around
a
it.
weekender. I got a
Yeah.
duffel.
Mhm.
I got a full
Carry on.
suitcase,
I got
carry on. I got a laptop bag. I got
yep,
everything
yep.
I need.
I got
So
my phone
don't.
case.
I even got my TSA.
Hmm.
Move through the line quicker than
Passport
everybody else.
holder. Yeah.
There
Gotta
we
have
go.
all of it. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because my husband, one of the things he tells people in our sessions when we're working with them is like, you come into a relationship with your bag, and he says that your bag is shit, right? It's your
Yeah.
baggage, but it's filled with shit. And he said it smells. He
Yeah.
said before you came into the relationship, you're like
Hmm.
you're spraying that good air freshener so no one
Yeah. You're
smells
trying
it.
to make it
And
look
but then
good.
when you start to unpack it, so like to your point, you start to unpack it and you're like, don't
Yeah.
touch my bag of
Yeah.
shit. This is
Yeah.
mine.
Don't. This is mine. Don't go there.
No,
Like you're
just
making me feel
smell it.
this way. You're doing this to me. You're making me feel this way is what happens, right? When
Keep smelling it.
yeah,
Yes, it's in the suitcase. No, I'm not putting it away,
yeah,
but endure it.
yeah,
Stay here with
yeah.
me
Enjoy the
and
shit.
smell it.
And smell the enjoy the shit that I'm bringing to this. Okay, just enjoy it.
Don't fuss. Don't.
Hmm.
So that's the couples stuff that we're doing. The other stuff that I've been working on is just a lot of women, particularly professional women, are in a space of like they want to grow, but they don't want to grow at the pace of what society says they're supposed to be doing.
Hmm.
So I'm finding there are a lot of women who are like, no, I want to explore. I want to explore creativity. I want to explore the things that bring me joy and passion.
Hmm.
And I shouldn't have to sacrifice my career, my education, and what I've done
Hmm.
so that I can have this part of my life also feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so recently, I've just been really blessed to be invited to come and facilitate trainings to help women just be like, no, this is me. This
Hmm.
is me. And there's nothing wrong with me for wanting
Yeah.
more. There's nothing wrong with me for having ideas. And I don't have to sacrifice what brings me joy and passion.
Hmm.
I don't have to sacrifice that to make other people happy, which
Yeah.
is really, it's really, those are really cool to me because when I'm in the room and I see women get it.
Yeah. The light bulb goes off, and you're like, yes, you got it.
Yeah, and it's almost like it unlocks a portal for them
Hmm.
to see like, oh shoot, there's more that's possible.
Yeah, yeah. And it's beautiful when that happens because otherwise you're stuck in the rat race and you're stuck in just corporate America of the idealistic American dream that you're trying to obtain, and then you realize, it's
It ain't much of a dream.
you're like, this is not it. This is not making me happy,
Mm-mm.
So
And usually, it's funny when I talk about like BIPOC people, Black, Indigenous people of color, like, just when we think of ourselves as people of color, the American dream was not created for people of
no,
color.
no, no.
And so we're constantly striving to fit in a system, and the
Yeah.
system wasn't created.
At all for us,
No.
at all. Like for my family, immigrants coming here, it's all about the American dream. It's all about making money, honor for the family, and like just creating this image to fit
Mhm.
in this like box, and
Yeah.
it's just never works,
Mm-mm. No, and it doesn't work because the system is inherently flawed.
Yes, yes,
Right? So a system that is set up where all of the mechanisms are there to support white men,
yeah, completely.
and then you're like trying to stick yourself in the system, like, oh, I'm gonna try this. Like,
Like, no, you weren't, they don't want you in there.
no, it's like the triggers that, like, so the system works, and then there's like a lever that gets pressed when something is done. Oh, you do this and the lever, but they don't tell you that some of the characteristics for the lever, you're
Mhm.
not meeting them. So you're like,
No, you're not
why
white.
isn't the lever working for me? It's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
one, you're not white, one, you're not a male. Like those, so if you don't fit those two things, you're not gonna fit in.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah, so you might as well just, beat to the, your own drum of whatever makes you happy at this point.
Yeah, because in the end, right, we all have to account for the time that we've spent on this planet. We got to account for the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you spent time trying to achieve something that wasn't truly part of who you wanted to be or the mark that you wanted to leave on the planet, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you look back and you're like, man, look at that time. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that time.
Yeah, because everyone's trying to fit into this like society and propaganda of like everything you have to do. You have to be a mother, you have to be a successful person, career woman, you got to keep your house all tidy. Like you have to do all of these things. And then at the end of the day, you're empty.
Oh, say that part again.
Right. So most
Yeah.
of these women are probably having these problems because they feel completely empty because they're trying to fix and do all of these things that are like, I don't know, like 10 to 20 jobs that you're doing all at the same time. And it's funny, as I'm winding down my like life to like do more things for myself,
Mm.
it's funny because now I just can't see myself doing the amount of things I did before because I realized I was in such like survival mode that people would look at me and be like, how do you do that, Linda? Like, how do you get any sleep? Do you have any fun? Like, how do you do all of those things? I'm like, I don't know. I just have to do it. But it was this like survival mechanism that I had to succeed. I had to make sure I had enough money to cover everything. But it was this like survival thing. But now that I'm not in it, I just don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? It's not even, it's like you realize it brought no value.
No,
So it's
not
like,
at all.
why would I continue to do that if there's no value in it?
There's no value and there's no happiness. There was no extra joy that it gave. Like for me to work in corporate America for 23 years,
Mm,
and what do I get out of that?
yeah.
Nothing. Nothing.
Hmm.
Was it even something I wanted to do? No, it was that I needed to make sure that I was not a starving artist. I need to make sure that I succeeded in the eyes of the family and the Asian culture of like, I am enough. I
Hmm.
can succeed as an artist. So look at me, look at my career. You know what I mean? Like I was
Yeah.
trying to
Oh,
produce
yeah.
this
You
like,
needed something to point to.
yeah, I needed to produce this image of being a successful artist. Like I did it. Look at me. But like really, it doesn't really, it doesn't fulfill anything because look at me now. I'm divorced and I'm going back to square one, which is what do I love to do? Art.
Mm.
right? And the art of living now is like the beautiful thing I'm doing, the stories, and like realizing that me telling one story will heal somebody else, and just loving this new medium of, film and art, and podcasting is my new form of art now.
Yeah.
Because
And
it's really building like a community now. So it makes us feel a little more connected to everybody.
I think that's what everyone wants, Linda. Everyone wants community
Yep.
in the way that community makes them feel good,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So for all of our introverts out there who are like, I don't want community, I want to be left alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they still want a form of community that respects who they are,
Mm-hmm.
speaks to their needs and their desires. We
Yeah.
all want community, a safe place where we can go
Mm-hmm.
and breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like right now, everything that's happening in the world, it makes it really hard for us to breathe, right?
Yes.
We're taking breaths, but we're not like breathing effortlessly. Part of it is like we're holding our breath because,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, what's going to happen on the news? Is there going to
Yeah.
be another mass shooting? And all of a sudden our minds start to kind of like spiral
Yes.
because there's so much, right, that we don't have control over,
Mm-hmm.
that is so daggone freaking scary,
Yeah.
that having a safe community where you can go and breathe,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it doesn't make all that other stuff better. It just makes it bearable.
Yeah. And just to be able to speak it helps your nervous system. Like if you put a label to how you're feeling, just speaking it
Mhm.
helps you, and just be able to talk to somebody about it. Because like I'm like a half introvert, half extrovert, but
Oh, me too.
most of the time I'm introverted, because like I joke with Dave, I'm like, really, I don't really like to talk to people on the phone. So the funny thing is that now I'm doing a podcast, so which is funny, right? But since I'm doing a podcast and recording it, and then I edit it, so then that's like my form of art. So like now I enjoy it, so it's like
Yeah, so you enjoy more the process of breaking it down and turning it into something, as opposed to like the raw data of getting all the information and kind of, and I know you enjoy this, but
yeah.
I could hear you saying that, but I really enjoy looking at it and piecing it together and finding the context and the highs and lows of the conversation. That's
because
the
it's
art for you.
because like I don't like us having the conversation. I don't fully see it and fully hear it until I edit it and watch it on TV, and then I'm like, oh, that was a great conversation, and I'm
Mm,
so glad that it's recorded, because so now it's a good teaching moment for me and for other people. So now I can share it with other people. So now it becomes like
yeah.
a full circle moment, as opposed to us just having a great conversation on the phone and then we forget about it in a couple hours or tomorrow. But now it's recorded, and now it's like substance that we can share, and it makes it more beautiful for me.
Yeah, and you allow other people to join the community because they're eavesdropping on a
Yes.
conversation that
And
we've
people
had.
love that. People love eavesdropping on
Oh
conversations.
yeah.
They're like, oh my God, what are they talking about? Right?
Oh yeah. Well, people, that's the nature of our world. People are voyeurs, right? It's
Yes.
like what can I see that nobody else knows that I'm seeing, but I'm
Hmm.
getting like gratification from observing and hearing it.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and that's beautiful. And congratulations. You are killing the game with
Mm,
this. I love seeing you post, and I love seeing the Art and Hustle logo. I
yes.
love just the whole beauty of it and the conversations. I saw Jordan's
Yeah.
interview with you, which was pretty dope.
It was pretty
Um,
good. Like I'm coming more comfortable in speaking and setting it all up, and like it's becoming like more easier as I do more and more of these. So thank you. Like you saw like the journey, and you saw like a little bit of the evolution of it and the full circle moments of it. So
oh yeah, I told you inspired me. So
mhm.
I'm still working on my stuff. My channel is up, and I'm just gonna keep posting. I'm probably gonna take some of our conversation
Yeah.
and throw it up there. The
Love
parts
it. I
that,
love it. See,
yeah, like
the fact that I inspired you to just move ahead and do it, even though you were kind of in that mix of like, I'm not sure if I like it. Should I do it?
yeah,
See, that's the whole. See, if I can just help somebody else just move ahead with things, that's the whole purpose, right? Is to help each other and inspire each other. So,
yeah. How
mhm.
have you been navigating through all this stuff that's been going on? You know.
Well, one thing is that long time ago, I stopped watching the news because I
Mhm.
realized a lot of that is fed into the system of what they want you to know. So
Mhm.
I took myself out of that matrix of the news.
Yeah.
And now that I've taken myself took myself out of like well, I didn't take they took me out of like the whole corporate world also, so I'm in my own like little bubble now, you know.
Mhm.
And so I'm enjoying this like, freedom to just be me and just to work on this and try to build up this like um 1,000 subscribers so then I can monetize it. So I'm enjoying my own little world here that I've,
Yeah.
created kind of,
Mhm.
because I want to be able to just talk to everybody. Because, like when people have like these talk shows, they're always talking to famous people. They're always talking to giants of like social media, or giants of like TV and
Hollywood music.
Hollywood, yeah, music and all of that. And I'm like, well, there's plenty of giants among us, and I feel like we all have a story, so I want to give everybody a forum to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Hmm.
I think it's beautiful because it's more relatable,
Hmm.
right? People can relate to everyday circumstances. Kind of like our conversation with before talking about motherhood, like a mom who's full-time working and trying to figure out where kids are going for summer camp,
For
right?
summer camp, yeah, yeah. Our summer camp story.
Or,
What are your
or
kids doing for summer camp?
like
Same
absolutely
thing.
nothing.
Same thing I did as a kid. Nothing. Well, I worked in the restaurant. That was my summer camp.
Yeah, and I think of a mom who's living that conversation is more grounding for her, right? She can relate, she gets it. She
Hmm.
understands the like the joys of kids ending school, but then the responsibility of like, okay, what are we doing for the summer?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Like, and I'm a single mom, so I have to figure out like what do they get. Well, I can't afford to send them anywhere, so we'll just have to figure out like a schedule to do some fun things here and there, and go to the park and figure out some sports to play, and
Mhm.
figure out how to take over the world.
Yeah, one free activity at a time, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the beauty of the internet. Our moms didn't have the internet back in the day. Uh,
Hmm.
now we do. So it's
Yeah.
like free fun activities somewhere.
Yeah. What can we do over the summer? Here's a list of things that you can do.
Mm,
Yeah.
mhm.
How are you doing with all everything's going on?
I like you. I during the pandemic and before I've really not been a news kind of person. I cycle in based on what's happening. It's funny, I have a mentor
Mhm.
that I studied under for a couple of years for learning how to be a facilitator, learning group dynamics and how do you like hold a room full of people, how do you help them through psychological processes. And I remember taking one of my mentors classes
Mhm.
and I was like, I don't watch the news, I don't do that. And one thing that she taught me, she's like, there is power in knowing
Mhm.
that it is a matrix, but she said you still don't want to remove yourself from it completely
Yeah.
because you want to be mindful of what is being fed into the matrix.
And then
So
be able to talk about it. Mhm.
she gave me a different perspective, right? Because she said, yes, you may not want the interpretation, which is what the media does,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The media interprets
Mhm.
situations and
Mhm.
then brings their interpretation of the situation. And really that's what they're feeding us,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But the reality of it is a young man walked into a school and shot
Yeah.
8 20 people.
Yeah.
So her thing is like, you want to be aware of the situation.
And the facts that happen around you. Yep.
Yeah, but she said because if you're not, how do you become a change agent in the world
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
you're not familiar with the hurts and the pains that people are experiencing? So I say all that to say I ebb and flow
Yeah. Yeah.
based on what's happening, and if I find myself consuming too much,
Mhm.
um, I take a break.
Yeah.
But I'm not consumed and swept up by the thoughts and the emotions and the opinions. That I'm really good at. Like I will unfollow a person quick, fast, in a hurry.
Hmm. Hmm.
If I find that person is on my timeline in social media and
Yeah.
all they have are opinions and I'm like, oh, mute,
Yeah, that's what I was doing
unfollow.
for a really long time. I think I unmuted like and unfollowed or muted like a shitload of people. So then
Yep.
all I was getting were just like gardens and like vacation homes in Italy. And I'm like, man, I don't see anybody. I'm like, oh, I guess I'd have to start following some people. So I'll go back on. But then like if it's negative, I'll just start
Oh
clicking it
yeah,
off. Yeah. So
that, that's
so most of the stuff will just be like nice quotes and things of, other countries because that's what's coming through my feed.
yep. It's so true. And then if I look at something like someone's post and it triggers me, and then I look at their picture and I have no idea who the hell they are, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't know you. Like,
I don't know you.
yeah.
I don't know you. So why am I even giving you space in my brain? I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like I'll find out like what's happening around the world because like I'm on Facebook, I'm on like LinkedIn and all of
Hmm.
those. So I'll see the news of what's happening. So I'll try to get some of the details of it. But like I try not because like I took my daughter for her 13th birthday. She wanted to get nail tips, right? So she did a whole Google slide presentation to try to persuade me into getting nail
I
tips
love
for
it.
her. And
I love
it was hysterical. She's like, Mommy, can you come here and look at something? And I'm like, sure. And so she's like, look. So she did like, pros, inspiration. Like she did a whole like really professional slideshow
that's
for me.
powerful.
I was like, I was so impressed by it. I was like, this is so impressive. I'm gonna let you do it. But it was already coming down the line because, like I said in another podcast, my sister's daughter is the same age as Maddie, and she already had her hair dyed and already got nails done. So I was like, I know, like they talk every
It's
single day.
coming.
It's coming. But the fact that she actually took the time to do the presentation was like impressive.
Hmm.
So we were in the nail salon, and all they kept doing was talking about the shooting and the information of it. And I can just feel what I used to feel when I used to watch the news. When I was like, oh my
Kind
God,
of
oh my God, it was that anxiety starts setting in, and this like, I don't, it's just this, it was just,
worry.
yeah, it was this feeling of worry and fear and like stress. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And the majority of America feels this because they're watching the news all the time,
Time.
all the
Mhm.
time. And you just go into this huge fear state,
Mhm. And it's interesting because the news is like primetime television. Do you know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like how back in the day we would watch things and shows get ratings
mhm,
and your ratings determine what time you get on, who advertises during
mhm.
your show time.
Yeah.
And when the news started to fall into that category as well, I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, it's a performance.
Yeah.
It's a performance.
Yeah, because they try to get ratings, they try to be popular. And now they're trying to figure out how to get back into that because with Netflix and Hulu and all of that, they're getting shut out. Regular news is getting shut out. So now they're trying to control all of it even more now. So like everything's
Yeah.
getting linked up even more.
Hmm.
Like it's crazy now. Google, like you can't just sign into one Google account with one email. It's going to try to connect you to everything else that your Gmail is connected to now. I was like, wow,
Hmm.
the system's getting
Oh yeah.
smarter and smarter. And I was like, oh, this is scary.
Yeah. Listen, it's the process of trying to, for me, which is what I do, and I think what you're doing with your podcast,
Mhm.
is keeping people present.
Yeah.
Really, my book, Spiritually Woke, that's why I titled it Spiritually Woke.
Mhm.
It's this idea that wokeness is about your awareness to what's happening around you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And particularly being spiritually woke is like almost like you're in those senses that are not the senses that are at the forefront.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not your seeing, hearing, tasting senses. It's your sixth senses. It's the
Yeah.
senses that I try to tell my kids all the time,
Mhm.
follow the inkling. And they know
Mhm.
what I mean when I say that. It's like you're in school or you're somewhere and something just, you feel it that says, don't go there.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't share this with that person.
Mhm.
I was like, those are inklings. They're like, they're the part of us
It's like
that
the
is,
hair triggers in your body, and they're all true because it's mind, body, and soul. It's just not how you hear it. It's everything. Your gut will feel it. Your heart will feel it. Something doesn't seem right. Like I've gotten to that place where I trust my instincts more now. So when I feel it or sense it, I'll just tell people. And it sounds completely crazy sometimes when I tell people things. I'm like, listen, I don't know. I'm just going to tell you how I feel. It sounds crazy, but I'd rather just tell you just in
oh
case
yeah,
something
just
happens.
in case.
Just in
And
case.
and here's the thing, I'm like you, I'd rather share it, the just
Mhm,
in case, than
mhm.
keeping it to myself and then hearing something after and being
Yeah.
like, damn, I should have said something.
Mhm, mhm.
But I'm always telling my kids that. I'm like, you follow the inklings, you
Yeah.
follow those little urgings, those little things that you hear.
Mhm.
Um, because if you don't, like that's the true gift for us as human beings,
Mhm.
is that.
Yeah.
And when we don't pay attention, it's, listen, our kids are bombarded with so much, Linda.
Yeah.
Like we were saying, our sons doing the video games. There's just and there's so many opinions that come at them that
Mhm.
they don't even have time to formulate their own opinions.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're not sure if their opinions are right, or they get criticized and put
If
down.
it
And
differs from the majority.
mhm.
So the inklings is what I focus on with my kids. I'm like, listen, you can hear and see and read what everybody else is doing. In the end, I need you to get strong enough in your gut to like,
Yeah.
be like, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't care about everybody else.
Mhm.
I'm clear that you all are saying this is what you're cool with and this is good. I said, but you got to go with what works for you, because in
Yeah.
the end, if it doesn't work for you, you're just setting yourself up to be unhappy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I've been trying to tell my kids also, is to, just trust your gut. Like whatever you're feeling, something doesn't feel right, or someone's making you feel a certain way, just, go the other way and just trust your instincts, because
Hmm.
really, and then I try to, so like I tell my daughter, and my daughter picks it up. So I'll tell them like, you have all of these gifts, they're all in you. Just that as you get older, you start to lose these gifts. So
Yeah.
know so like she'll be like, yeah, I was feeling it. So sometimes like randomly she'll be like, mommy, were you just thinking this? Like, did you just think it because I heard you say it? Like I'll be in another room or whatever. She'll like, did you just say something, mom? I'm like, well, I was thinking something. So now I have to be conscious of what I'm thinking, because she'll try to pick it up, be like, oh, I just heard you say something. She's like, or I predicted something. Like I just thought, like I knew that was gonna happen. Like she'll be like, oh yeah, I predicted that, or I heard you say something, even when I didn't say something.
Yeah.
She's like, she's like working on it,
Yeah.
working on her powers.
Listen, that shucks. This is the time for us to do it for them,
Yeah.
right? Because as they mature and they get older, the world is set up to discourage that,
Yeah. Yeah.
not necessarily to encourage it, right?
Yeah.
Because people are
Completely.
so consumed with what they can touch, see, feel, and hear, that anything outside of that is considered like, oh no, that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
can't be real.
And that's a huge thing, because like growing up in my childhood, I never had that experience of someone fostering like and supporting, oh, you're Linda, you're good, you can trust your instincts. No, all of that was like suppressed fully
Mm.
and like covered up, and like no, everything was wrong. And you could like, home was never safe for me, so like being me never felt safe. So it's only till I turned 40, I was telling this to Deborah, like only till I turned 40 did I wake up. And so now I'm
Mm.
46, so technically I'm only 6 years old in this life of being present.
Of being present.
Of being present, like literally I'm only 6 years old, because I never fully woke up from all of that till I was like around 40.
Yeah.
So it's a
That
whole new
is,
world for me.
let me tell you something. It's a different world and we engage it differently.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things in the book, Spiritually Woke, that I'm like, listen, you want to be present to every moment. Like, what does it mean to live in gratitude? What does it mean to be a contribution to the world, right? Because when you're not present to that, then someone's going to define it for you.
Yes, like if you don't stand for something,
Woo!
you're just gonna, what was that? If you don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for
For
everything.
anything.
Fall
Or
for
everything.
anything.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I can understand, like, you know, my kids and how like they're like quiet to like speak, because that's how I was before.
Yeah.
So it's funny that I'm doing a podcast now, because I've always been kind of scared to speak my points of view and be able to stand in the forefront, to be able to own my presence and own my voice. So this is like a beautiful new realm that I'm doing here, because this is not who I was ever before, you know.
Mhm. Well, listen, it's whether it came 6 years ago, 10 years ago, or 2 hours ago,
Yeah.
the fact that I truly believe the fact that we are still breathing means we have another chance.
Yes. Yep.
The fact that you took a breath means you have another chance to kind of fully embrace and walk into like, why were we here? And until I don't have any more breath, you keep going and you keep
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah, and it's beautiful that you, and this is your purpose now, is to help everybody step
Oh
into
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. I love it. It's work. It's work because I'm in it. I'm always a student. I'm a student first before a teacher. And I think many times people who do the type of work that I do, they can get caught up in what they think they know.
Yeah.
That they stop growing. I tell people my life is the book that I wrote, right? My life is the workshops that I facilitate. I can only do it because I'm living it.
Yeah.
I can only do it because I'm aware and in constant growth and questioning about myself.
And that's how people relate to you, because you are able to draw upon all your experience and be like, this is why I can tell you this, because I went through it, and here's my experiences, and here's my story. So that's why everyone can step into it and be like, oh, I understand, because I felt the same way.
Yeah.
You know?
How's the book? Are you working on the book? What's happening?
It's been working on in my head.
Okay, that's fine. That's the first place for it to start.
Yeah. And I've come to a beautiful place where I can see it more in my head now, because now I see it in like an art book, essay, poems, quotes, all of it. So I see it more now. So I think I was like envisioning it where I started, where I am now, where I started, where I was before. And it might be interesting to work backwards. Be like, okay, because literally, like I said, like I feel like I woke up at 40. So technically that might be interesting to step into it at 40, and here's what happened. And
because you were completely numb and asleep to everything before that.
Completely numb, depressed, and just in my own little, like, I don't know what you call it, asylum, prison, you know what I mean? So it might be interesting to start it at 40 and then bring people into that journey of all the evolutions and trials and tribulations of what I went through. And we'll take you through it, through the art, through the stories, through the writings and all of that. So I'm starting to formulate it more. So I'm just gonna have to start doing page by page and start posting it on my wall and doing it like kind of like a timeline. And then each page will be a piece of paper that I can put on my wall, so I can move it around as I need to, and do like little pieces of art. Like maybe each piece of art is whatever size book I want to do. It's either a square or an 8.5 by 11. So I would design each one as a painting, as words, and place it on the wall.
That's really cool. I mean, immediately started like seeing different titles. When you said you woke up at 6, if you woke up at 46, you woke up at 40 and now you're 46.
Yeah. So I'm
and it's almost like birthed at 40 or you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like birthed
Yeah.
at 40s, 6 years at 46, right?
Hmm.
Just that play on the idea that this was my chronological age,
Yeah.
but this is like my emotional, spiritual age.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like when I posted the podcast with Jordan, originally I put it like hiding in plain sight,
Yep.
spelled the regular way. But then I went back and like for other ones, I changed it to pain. So hiding in pain sight instead of
Wow.
plain sight. Yeah. So I changed it and put plain to pain because nobody would know, the struggles I was going through because I had created this image where no one would be able to tell that I had issues at home. So,
Mm,
you know,
that's gonna free a whole lot of people, man. That's what I love.
yeah.
That's what I love. There are women that need to hear
Hmm.
that you don't have to hide anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
The hiding is only what makes it more traumatic.
Yeah. And it's like such a weight on you to hide from anything. Anybody who's hiding any sort of story, any sort of addiction, or whatever it is, it's that hiding and feeling like you have to cover up everything and getting judged by people. But really, it's really all in your head. Like you've just
Mhm.
created this giant story that is like so encompassing that I can't wait to write it because I feel like maybe that will like free me from it,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And the beautiful thing is that, like I told you before in our previous podcast, is that I want to be able to tell the story and not cry. And so
Mm.
when I was talking to Jordan, I was able to tell it, and there was only like maybe one or two tears that was like welling up, but I was able to contain myself and continue on with the stories that I didn't fully go into that like ugly cry. So I was like, oh, I did it.
I'm getting there.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah. And the beauty of even the beauty of allowing yourself to cry, but knowing you're not attached to it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
the tears could actually be tears of freedom and not tears of um connection to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But more so the tears of, man, look how far I've come.
Yeah. That's what I'm
And that's worth getting emotional about.
that's where I'm trying to get to. Like there was another podcast, I think it was a more religious one, where she was telling the story of her abuse.
Mm,
And the what I loved about it is that when she told it, she like flipped it. So she'll tell you the story and it sounds horrendous. But then she'll be like, you know what? I'm telling you this story because this is what I want to do with it. I want to be able to come here and help you and be able to give you the freedom to understand that you can get over it too by me telling you this horrible story and how like crazy it is, because like it's just ridiculous the shit that I'm gonna be able to tell in this story. Like it's
mhm.
unfathomable of the
Yeah.
ridiculous of it, that only reason why I'm telling it so other people will be able to get through their trials and tribulations as well.
And to your point, I did probably about 10 years ago, I did some transformational work on myself.
Mhm.
And one of the workshops that I
Was
took
it
the
6
focus
years ago when you were 40?
when I was 40, shucks. This one, I think I might have been 30, 34 maybe. But it
Mhm.
was crazy because it was about secrets.
Mm.
To your point, the
Yeah,
whole one of the sessions
yeah.
was about the secrets we
Mhm.
the secrets we hold
Mhm.
and how they imprison us
Yes.
emotionally, mentally, and even physically. It's
Yes, hugely physically too. Like I made myself sick,
mm,
made myself literally sick. And you can see it in your body. Like I was turning into my mom because my mom would hold in all of her stress. So all of it would be like on the shoulders, the back, in the arms, like in the face. Like I was turning into her
mm,
and I looked like her. And I was like, oh my God, like I cannot die like this. Looking like I'm literally living her life.
yeah,
Her generational traumas has transcended into me and I'm living it and I'm gonna die. Like I don't want to die unhappy. Like I had
yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, it was funny you say that because for me, it was that awakening.
Hmm.
It was that awakening that like family trauma gets
Mhm.
passed through our DNA.
Yes.
If we don't kind of catch it,
Mhm.
make ourselves aware of it and allow it to kind of like breathe it out and then let it go,
Mhm.
it passes in our DNA to our
It
children.
really does, because there's a lot of scientific information out there that the fear that you feel, it gets transcended past to generations
Oh
on,
yeah.
you
There's
know?
a I don't know if I probably said this in one of the I might have said this in one of our previous conversations. Dr. Joy Leary, that's her old name, but she's
Mhm.
a psychologist, and um I think her new name is O'Grady. I can't remember, but her previous work is in post-traumatic slave syndrome
Mm.
and how the trauma from slavery has been passed down generations
Mhm.
to generations. And she gives examples of it. She gives the examples of the mothers in the grocery store, like a Black mother in the grocery store is very protective of her kids,
Mhm.
right? You
Mhm.
don't go far,
Yeah.
you don't leave, you don't go down the aisle. And if you do, they're like repercussions, right? You're either going to get a spanking, you're going to
Yeah.
get reprimanded.
Yeah.
And she linked it all the way back to like on the plantation when the slave master would come by on a horse
Mm.
and see her son or her daughter. And she knows what they're looking at those kids for, right? He's either looking to sell that son to see if he's physically strapping, or
Mhm.
he's looking at the daughter to potentially bed her, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
have sex with her,
Yeah.
or rape her. Let's call it what
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
rape.
It was rape. Yeah.
It was rape.
Mhm.
And how that mother would then respond like, oh, no, no, master, no, no, he no
Mhm.
good or she's no good, and would kind of put the kids down to this person in hopes that he would leave them alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now that daughter grows up seeing how her mom responded.
Mhm.
And that daughter now rears her children,
Mhm.
not realizing that in that exchange with the slave master, her mom was trying to protect them. And so
Yeah.
she linked it generationally, how the idea initially was protection,
Mhm.
but how that protection now can feel like oppression
Yeah.
because the mother, that's what they had to do.
Yeah.
So even what you're saying, like watching how you watched your mom
Mhm.
cope, you watched her cope that way because those were probably the tools that she got from her mother,
Yeah.
that her mother got, that her mother got, and she
Mhm.
had no other way but to describe coping to you other than what she showed you.
Yeah, yeah, and it's crazy, and to realize that it really does come down generationally, and for you to have to be spiritually woke to like see it,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
most people don't see it. You just realize, like, when you get to the end of your life, you realize, oh shit, like I'm not happy. I didn't do any of the things that I wanted to do.
Mm-mm,
So
mm-mm. It's interesting because I've had these conversations like with my family, because every family has their stuff, right? Their generational stuff, how they communicate, what they do well, what they don't do well.
mhm.
And I remember telling my mom, like, I don't want to raise my children in a home where we can't talk about the difficult stuff,
Yeah.
because talking about the difficult stuff means something bad. I don't want them that. I want them to have a safe space to be able to communicate, because
Mhm, mhm.
talking about difficult things doesn't mean that like we're a bad family or we're bad people or we're not good people.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for us to let go of things. And I remember the first, must have been, I don't even know how many years ago it was, but I had been holding on to for years. And this is probably the first time I'm actually saying it here like this,
Mhm.
because I shared it on social media. The fact that my orthodontist had kind of inappropriately touched me when I was younger, when I had braces
Oh, really?
years ago when I was in
Really?
high school. Oh yeah, for years. And I remember I held on to that for years,
Oh
like
my God.
4 years.
Yeah.
And I remember one day, I don't remember, I was talking to my mom about something. She was over my house, and I literally just blurted it out and I started crying.
Oh my God.
And she was so, even a few years ago, I had to tell her, Ma, you can't feel guilty. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't tell you because I didn't know what to do. I'm thinking to
Yeah.
myself, is this is this happening? Is this like supposed to happen? I
Yeah.
don't,
How old were you when it started?
I had my braces. I had my braces. I got my braces, I want to say maybe when we were in the 8th grade.
Mhm.
So probably somewhere between 8th and 11th grade, which is when I graduated from high school,
Well, yeah.
or like 9th and 10th grade. It was that window
Mhm. Mhm.
of those first couple of years. Cause that's when it's whenever I had my braces.
Okay.
And I would always remember just being anxious to go.
Yeah.
And even at times being there and looking at the nurse, like, are you gonna like,
Do something? Like this is
yeah,
yeah, like is this is not appropriate. Like what the fuck is happening, right? And when you're young, you don't know what the fuck to do because
no,
you're like,
because you don't know, you're like,
what is
and
happening?
it was so subtle, like it wasn't overt. It was very, very subtle, almost to the point where as an adult, you could be like, oh, well, that must have been a mistake, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But as an adult, when I look back on it, it happened every time I went. That was not a
Oh,
mistake.
yeah, yeah.
That wasn't an accident. It wasn't a simple brush
Mm-hmm.
because you were brushing me every time.
So did he
Um,
try to touch your privates or your chest area?
no, no,
Or
no. What he would do is because when you're sitting in the
yeah,
orthodontist chair, you're like back,
all the way back. Yeah.
all the way back, and like my hands would be on my lap, and based on where his body was,
Oh, so he
he
would
would
brush his
rub
penis.
on different parts of my arm
Yeah,
and
yeah,
on my hand.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a couple of times, like would like, when working, would
Yeah,
just lean himself into,
yeah. And you're like, excuse me, what the
but
fuck?
not right. But in my mind, like I'm
Yeah.
like
You're like,
14, 15. I'm like,
yeah,
this doesn't, yeah. And a couple of times I would look over at the nurse and I look back in hindsight and there was so much shame because it
yeah.
was clear that I wasn't the only person he was doing it to.
Oh, okay.
Because he was a child orthodontist.
Yeah, yeah. So he's doing it to everybody. Yeah.
And I remember many times I remember looking over at her and I could just feel like the shame and embarrassment. But I was thinking to myself, girl, like, I know I'm not crazy, but you're not doing anything. So maybe I am.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's just when you think of like to your point, the trauma that we've endured and
yeah.
those things that happen to us,
Mhm.
it's so important for, like I said, that's one of my biggest things about being like spiritually woke, being
That's
aware.
one of your biggest secrets that you had to be able to speak about and put it out there, but like, this is what happened to me and set it free. So this, you're not holding on to it. You're not holding on to any sort of shame or whatever. And the fact that you are able to speak about it will help somebody else realize, oh shit, that shit happened to me too, and be able
Because
to
I felt
share
so
those
much
stories.
guilt as an adult. I felt so much guilt because I
Yeah,
would always think to myself, oh my God, like how, it's not my responsibility. And
yeah,
I've learned that now, but for
yeah.
many years it was,
It's
God,
a
how many
shame.
other
You feel
people,
ashamed too that it happened.
well, that and the guilt of like, I didn't say anything. How
Mhm,
many other people did this happen to? He was probably in practice for years long after I was finished.
mhm.
He was an older gentleman. So I also, for years, when that's what it was. I'm now remembering when I shared with my mom.
Mhm.
Do you remember the big scandal at Penn State with Sandusky? There was
Mm.
a coach. There was a coach.
Oh, okay.
I, I think it was Penn State, Sandusky. Like he was like this world, like this amazing coach for this.
Uh-huh.
I want to say it was their football program.
Oh,
And a bunch of his previous students came out.
this is
And
similar to the Olympics coach who
yes,
molested
yes,
all of them.
yes. And I want to say this might have been like around 2003,
Hmm.
03, 04. If I'm thinking of the Sandusky stuff, that I think that was that time period when it came out.
Hmm.
And I just remember watching some of the victims talking, and I would get more and more emotional. I would get more and more emotional. I would get more, and I'd already shared. I think at that time the only person who I had told was my husband.
Hmm.
And I just remember just getting more and more emotional, and my emotion went from like sadness to anger, because then I started getting angry at the kids, the people who didn't say anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I had to let that go too, because they were no different from the individuals who finally did come out. Like, you
Yeah.
just, it's such a weird
Yeah.
thing.
It's a huge whirlwind of levels and layers and everything. And it's humongous. It's a huge thing to unpack.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But it's this forum that you have created to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Like for me, even this, like, as much as I've thought I was free from it, it's still something that I was like more comfortable writing about, right? Because I did a post on it years back when the U2 movement started. I did a post on it. And I was like, it was the first time that I had articulated to anyone outside of my husband and my mom, and the transformational workshop that I did.
Yeah.
And then I posted it, and people were like, oh my God, me too. Like the whole thing. But I had never, what I just did today, have never even done this before.
To be able to speak about it on like a forum here.
Verbally, yes, in this way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to be able to do that. That's why that's why when I talk to you and be like, listen, I want to tell my story, but it's going to be a hard story, and I don't know how not to cry and do like the ugly cry of all of it, you know? So.
Yeah, it's definitely, listen, we'll always forever be in the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll forever, but I think, your podcasts and forums like this and the workshops that I do, it creates a safe space for people to be in the work, but it not feel like work.
Yeah, exactly. Like just having these conversations is therapy and healing, and will help somebody else who, listens in on these and be like, oh, well, they look like they're put together and they look like they're professionals. Wow, they went through that kind of stuff. Okay, well, if they went through it, then I can get through the stuff that I'm going through. Because really, that's how I was able to get through a lot of my struggles, is by, watching all of these shows and talk shows and hearing everyone's stories, from like, any of these talk shows, from like Ellen to Oprah to, all of these stories, and online and YouTube, and just realizing, like, if they can go through those huge struggles, then I'll be okay as well.
And so it goes back to what we said in the beginning, community.
Yeah, exactly. See, we're always going full circle.
We're always coming back full circle, right? That's what it is.
Communication.
Yeah.
And giving people a safe space to, talk about these deep, hard things to talk about. And when I was talking to Jordan, I was able to, articulate a little more and more, of things that happen. Because really, like, if my manipulation and abuse started at around 3 years old to when I was a sophomore in high school, the level of fucked up in my brain, humongous. And for me to just wake up at 40 is just insurmountable. But it's beautiful that I can unpack it all and be ready to, write the book and set it all out there and set it on fire.
And set your kids free from the potential of passing, even if not that direct type of trauma, but the trauma of how you've coped.
Yes. And the trauma of how I would parent them as well.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yep. You should look her up, Dr. Joy Leary. I said, that's not her name anymore, because I know she got married, but her work
I'm sure it'll come up on Google.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look her up. But yeah, I think
Dr. DeGruy.
DeGruy. Okay.
Yeah, DeGruy Leary. And her theory is post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's interesting to have these like scientific facts that reinforce how I felt, because I always knew, I was like, I'm passing this on to my kids because I can see it in their eyes, that hesitation, that like reservedness of it, because they're super reserved, and they're constantly even around family, they just kind of look at people Like, and I'm like, but this is your family, you know, you see my sister or you see my family every single year. You love playing with them. So that initial of like, who the fuck are you kind of look, you know? And I was wondering, like, why are they so reserved? Well, they're getting it from my trauma, you know, because before this, I would always look at everybody like, who the fuck are you? Kind of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
are you friend or foe? You know, I mean, like that's
Mhm.
instinctual of like, can I trust you?
Can I trust you?
Can I trust you? And that's been a full journey in my 6 years of life here.
And when you add it all together, yes.
46 years, can I trust you? And it's beautiful that I finally get to a place where I realize I have to be able to trust myself,
That's it.
you know, because I always put it on men. I can't trust you. You are going to do this to me, you know? And being a person who's been violated, that's really hard. See, I'm
Yeah.
gonna start crying.
Oh man, listen, that's real. That right there is real.
Yeah.
Hmm. You're not alone. So many watching are like, that's me.
Yep.
That's me. Most of us, Linda, are walking through life not trusting people. That's one when I say I'm in the work for myself
Mhm.
every day. That's one of those for me too. Because as soon as somebody if they even remotely look like,
A foe. You're like, oh, I need to run away from you.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
good, you know, and that, you know, this is just such a beautiful space for people to be like, oh, I'm not crazy. No, none of us are crazy.
Yep.
None of us are crazy.
It's just a survival. It's how you were able to just cope.
Hmm.
You know?
To live,
Yeah.
to live, not even thrive, just to like make it to the next day.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's 40 years of my life that I was just trying to get through to the next day.
Mm. So how have the
But
six
now I'm
years,
living.
that's what I was about to say, how have the 6 years been?
It's been beautiful. Beautiful.
Mm.
I mean, obviously, it's a whole pile of shit that I had to walk through. Um, it was a battlefield, it was war, but I had to get all my like equipment together and like my batting and my armor and my army gear on and to be ready to fight. And that's only when I was able to prepare myself that I was able to live, was to get ready to fight. And you're fighting for yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's when I started living, is realizing, all right, I'm ready. I'm going all in.
Can your family see the difference from you before 40 and after 40? Have they noticed?
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody noticed. I think everybody noticed. Because part of me, like, I think everyone realized, like, I just didn't seem authentically who I was. I
Mm.
was kind of living in this, like, world that didn't really show who I was. Like, it just didn't look like me, you know? And everyone knows how I'm this, like, artistic, free kind of person who needs to express themselves. So I wasn't really living in that authenticity. So I think everyone could see it.
Mm.
I just didn't see it because I thought I had to live in this, checklist work.
Alternative universe.
Yeah, like I had to do all the checklists and follow all the rules of all of it and do what you're supposed to do, marriage, kids, work, career, and do all of those things. And I would come second.
Perfectly.
I would do everything for myself secondly when kids would go to sleep, like, but that's not living really. Like, you're fucking exhausted if you're just doing all of the stuff that you want to do when you take care of everybody else. Like, what time do you have for yourself, really? You're just putting yourself second.
And can you even really be fully present when you're doing all those things for other people? That was the thing that I caught for myself.
Yeah.
That even though I was doing all these things and putting everybody else first, when I was doing things for other people, I wasn't present.
Because you're just like kind of running a race, right? You're just like, here, just throwing shit out, right?
Yeah, it didn't have any substance. It didn't have any depth. It didn't have any connection or emotion because it was just a routine.
Yes.
Right? It was like, I was like just a robot without any, but the day that I started saying, I get to put some of these things first for myself. It made those other things that I was doing, it made them have more substance and emotion.
So did that happen for you when you started releasing those secrets and stuff and started realizing things more?
It did. I became okay with disappointing people.
Yes.
And before that, I wasn't.
Yes, that's a huge thing for me as well.
I became okay with, saying no. It's funny, one of the workshops I facilitated a couple of weeks ago, one of the women got up and she was like really emotional and she was saying how, this person's pulling on her and she's just talking like how what we're talking about. Everyone's pulling on her. And I said, what would happen if you said no? What would just happen if you actually said no?
Yeah.
And she started to cry and her concern was that people wouldn't love her or they would leave her.
Yeah, or they wouldn't like her, right?
Or they wouldn't like her.
Yeah.
And so I understood how she felt because it was like, I had to learn. And I told her, I said, sometimes you have to go to an extreme to find the balance. You have no idea what it is to ride a bike until you fall off the bike. No one can tell you what gravity feels like until you feel it.
That is true. That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody could say, oh, gravity is going to feel like this. No, gravity is what you feel when you fall and you bust your ass on the ground and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I need to lean a little bit more to the right.
Yeah.
And I told her that's how you have to start learning how to disappoint people. Be okay with disappointing everyone. And then you'll find the balance where you're making a decision from your heart and not from obligation.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing that I had to come to. Like, when I was ready to battle, like, I had to be ready to be like, okay, no, and stand by the no. And that's a hard thing for me to be able to either say no or, even just to ask for a divorce. Like, that was a huge one, for me to initiate something, to break up something, to stand for what I feel was like humongous. Because I felt like the world was gonna end, or I would unleash like anger and violence, so I'd be like, all right, holy shit. Had to say no. And then like I felt like I would have to have like, a whole slew of like reasons why, I would have to defend it like a lawyer.
Wow.
And not just because people always say like you have to be able to say no and not give the reasons and just be okay with it. And like me growing up, there will always have to be reasons. Why? What are the reasons? You can't just, there was always like, if you ever got reprimanded, you would have to sit there and give all the 5 million reasons why you just did what you did, when really you're just being a fucking kid and you didn't do anything wrong. Really, you didn't do anything wrong. You were being a kid. But no, being a kid was wrong, so you had to be reprimanded and sit there for hours. I would have to sit there for hours and think about what I did was wrong. And then you would have to have this like huge, like, I don't know, these like hairs of like, okay, I need to make sure everything that I do is not wrong,
Right.
is perfect, to be the good girl and to follow all the rules and just, you know,
That's exhausting.
so exhausting. It's like a huge, like that's how I've been living my entire life.
Mm,
Entire life I had to live like that.
yeah.
It's exhausting. So that's why 40 is fucking freedom. I don't give a fuck. That's why when Jordan asked, what is 40? 40 is freedom.
40 is freedom. I like that because
40,
it is.
yeah, from everything, from old patterns, from old secrets, and all of it. It's just gonna all
Yeah,
go.
because you start looking at the fact that, okay, I've lived 40 years and I don't want to live the next 40 the way I've lived the last.
Yeah.
So something's got to be different
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to leave anything on the table. I want the rest to be all out every day, an experience of, and not every day is going to be perfect, but an experience of joy. And like, even when the shitty stuff comes up, to be able to say, it's not going to tear me down.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be okay with saying no and be able to be okay with standing in like your own truth of whatever you feel and not feeling like whatever you're feeling is wrong, you know, because like growing up in that kind of environment, everything you thought was wrong,
Mm.
you know. So to be where I am now is to be able to stand by, no, what I'm feeling, this is how I feel, you know, and it's not wrong.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think when you freed yourself, you freed a lot of other people probably too. So kudos to you, sis.
Thank you so much for being a part of this journey and chatting with me. And like, we didn't even need like a full topic. We just needed like one or two things.
Always.
It's like my
Always.
conversations with Schiavo. Like, we can just bring up one thing and then we'll just have a whole conversation about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope I didn't disrupt any of the things you were interested in
No,
talking
I'm
about today.
interested in just getting to know what is happening with you now. And,
Yeah.
you know,
I appreciate it because I'm on a journey now that I'm free
yeah.
to like, how do I take my own sense of freedom and empower and inspire other women to be okay with that too.
Yeah, like once you found your light, you're like, I need to shine it on everybody. Here, listen, I found the light. You
Yeah,
too.
why am I going
You
to
too
keep it
can.
myself? Listen, and how about I find my own light? I'm gonna help you find your light. You
Yeah,
don't even have to have my light. I'm gonna just tell you, girl, you got a light too.
you got a light. I see.
Yes. I mean, listen, my name is Sunrise for a reason. So I like,
Exactly. And it's beautiful that you're in your light and you're in your purpose and helping all of these people. So I commend you and thank you for that.
oh, well, thank you. Thank you for always having me. I love our conversations. I think we just, are kindred spirits and we have a good time. And you gave me a little extra freedom today. So I'm grateful for that.
I'm grateful too. I'm so happy. And also when you do all of these like conversations with your couples, be beautiful to expand that eventually and like highlight them on
Mhm.
like some sort of platform. You know, because I've watched like Black Love
Yes.
and they showcase all of these couples and I love hearing their stories. So
Yeah. I love those stories too. And it's a great idea, something for my husband and I to really think about, because I think those stories are wonderful and they're inspiring. Our stories are really rooted in how couples got to us,
mhm,
right? And I
mhm,
think couples come to us because they are, they believe their relationship is in trouble,
mhm,
whether they're gonna thinking of divorce or whether they're just like something's off and we need to course correct.
mhm,
But they come to us because there's an awareness
mhm.
that they're like, something isn't working. And
Yeah,
we love that because it's the most human thing to do, but it's the human thing we most often don't do, which is ask for help.
Yeah, and it's beautiful that you can dissect it like a, investigator and like figure it all out
Yeah.
just by asking a couple questions. I can
Yeah,
tell
wait.
yeah, I can tell you too, like you're like, let me just ask you a couple questions and I can figure all both of you guys out.
It's so true because it's funny when we're like when we do that, you could
Yeah.
see like either the guy's eyes or like the other person's eyes, they get really big. They're like, how did what I can't tell you how many times couples say, were you in our house yesterday? And we were like, nope, we were in our own house. That's how we know.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I can tell that you guys could just like ask a couple questions and you're like, I figured it all out. Here's your problem. Let me tell you.
This is it. Don't keep doing this. This isn't gonna work. Do that, not this.
That is hysterical. So, what are some of your 7 tips that you are helping people realize how to transform their relationships?
Well, we have the first, so today's day 4, so folks got
Mhm,
to check their email to see what day 4 is.
mhm,
But yesterday was, I made a joke. I said, don't assume. Are you being an ass? Right? Many times, right? Because growing up, my father would always say, if I said, if he's like, oh, did you do such and such? And I would be like, oh, I assumed my
mhm.
brothers were doing it. And he was
Yeah.
like,
Don't
don't
assume.
assume because you make an ass out of
Uh-huh.
you and me.
Yeah.
And that played in my head. And so many times in relationships,
We
you get into
assume.
a conversation and you assume, like, you're like, oh, you did this because of this, or you didn't say this or because of this, but you have no fact. It's just all
Assumption.
assumption. And that spirals into arguments. So one of the tips is like, don't assume.
Hmm.
Don't assume. And in not assuming, another tip is be curious.
Hmm.
Always be willing to ask questions.
Hmm.
My husband and I, we tell couples all the time, we've been together 27 years, and I tell people I still don't know my husband.
See, that's beautiful because, like, I've always said to people, like, from my divorce, I learned you can't stop dating your husband or wife, your partner, whoever it is. Like, that's my main lesson that I learned from divorce. Don't stop dating them.
Because you don't like, I met my husband when we were in our late teens, early 20s.
Hmm.
He had a whole chunk of his life.
Hmm.
Even if we spent hours sitting together talking, he still wouldn't be able to tell me about every single detail of his childhood and adulthood.
Yeah.
And all of those experiences are at play in our relationship.
And he's still evolving as you get
And
older.
he's still evolving as he
Yep.
gets older. So
Yep.
that's why we tell couples, if you come into your relationship, because a lot of couples will say things like, oh, I know what she's going to do, or I know what he's going
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
And we were like, actually, you don't.
No.
You can guess, but you don't really know,
Hmm.
because you're unwilling to like stay in the question and curiosity of your significant other and be willing to ask, why'd you do that? Why'd you say that?
Hmm.
How come you feel that way?
Hmm.
And give them the space to be able to articulate. So that was another one, you know, being curious, don't assume,
Hmm.
and like be willing to listen. So many times we talk more than we listen.
Hmm.
And so a communication tip we tell people is like, just freaking listen sometimes.
Yeah.
And don't listen while in your mind you're preparing your argument or your rebuttal.
Yeah, that's what Will Smith says. He's like, don't, you're just preparing your reaction to what you're going to say to what they're saying.
So what they're saying, be willing to just be like, I'm just going to listen. I'm going to process. And as opposed to when the person is done speaking, I'm going to immediately make a statement. Do the tip that I just said, ask questions.
Hmm.
Can you elaborate on that further?
Hmm.
Can you help me understand? Can you give an example? Like those are ways that it builds communication in a relationship that allows for you to evolve, but
Hmm.
also to create like connection and vulnerability and trust.
Yeah. And it's expansive.
Oh, because if you ask a question, you have no idea what you're going to get,
Hmm.
which is like so beautiful because there's more information that you can learn in the moment.
Yeah.
Well, those were a few that we've done, and they're usually some of our common ones. One that we share with couples all the time is, slow to take offense, slow to give offense.
Mm.
Like that, we tell couples that should be your
Oh
like
yeah, I should play
a
that all the
mantra.
time. I think I really need to play that.
Slow to take offense, slow to give offense. Because how many times does someone say something
Yeah.
And our first reaction is to assume
Yes.
the
And like,
worst.
and I'll instantly be offended, instantly, because I have this record playing in my head, you know, that I need love and I need all of this. So if I don't get that instantly, I'll just be offended.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we say slow to take it and also slow to give it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're mindful of I'm slow to take it, like I'm not going to assume the worst about what you're saying, and because I'm not assuming the worst, I'm also not going to give you my worst.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that's the natural reaction, right? When we're offended,
Yeah.
our intent is like, I'm going to go and offend someone. I'm going to offend them now.
Yeah, like instantly, I think I text somebody, I'm like, what the fuck? Instantly, I wrote, what the fuck is that? I don't know what I wrote, but the first one was what the WTF. And my friend, I screenshot it and I sent it to my friend, and she's like, yeah, maybe you should write something else instead of WTF.
Yeah.
I was like, it's really bad. I'm an Aries. I'm full of fire. I instantly think and react. Add to that. And she was like, oh, she's like a Taurus with the cusp of Aries. So she's like, I only have a little bit of Aries, and I don't know how you can handle it because you're a full Aries. And I was like, yeah, why don't you add that plus a full dragon to that too? So like, I'm a crazy, fiery, hot mess is what I am. So I'll instantly be like, what the fuck does that mean? And then he'll be like, well, were you offended? I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah. As opposed to, you're asking questions, but your question was like rooted in offense.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, the face of like, what you mean by that? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because what you mean by that is the same as with WTF, but it's just, it's not charged with offense.
Yeah, it's not charged with what the fuck. And so I charged it with what the fuck does that mean? And then he came back and explained himself. And so then I went into Google and Googled the word. I'm like, well, this is how I'm taking it. And this is what Google's telling me. So it's negative connotation. Like,
you collected your research. We're like, well, this explains
this. You use this word, and this word is not a positive word. So it's like weird. So like I got the negative word, so I instantly became what the fuck. So then, but then like he came with like a positive text, but then like with the negative word under it. So then like it's like positive and negative. So like I'm like, how the fuck are you gonna be positive and nice and then use the negative word? And I'm like, I don't. The two things didn't mix.
It could just, well, the other way that it could be, which is where slow to take offense, slow to give offense, is that he might just not understand the true meaning of the word, and the context in which he used it wasn't charged with negativity.
Yeah, he doesn't see it as a negative word because he sees it as like just this is what the word means. It's simple.
Yeah, it's not charged with anything for him.
Yeah, like unfortunately, I'm constantly charged with this like shit baggage.
Yeah.
You know,
which is the lens at which you look at the word.
Yeah, it's totally me. I know it's me because I'm like, oh, it's that constant like needing of like reinforcement, love, and like if I don't get it instantly, I just think that, well, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why didn't you come with like peace and love
to begin with?
Just come with peace and love. That's all I want is peace.
And he's looking at you like, I did.
You just
my peace and love just didn't look the way you wanted it to look.
Yeah, that's exactly what he would say. It wasn't what you wanted me to say, even though I meant it that way. It's just not what you know. So I just don't hear it. Like I just need to clean off my glasses.
Or have more than one pair.
Yeah, that's true.
Because sometimes a WTF is needed, right? Yeah. Because it is a true WTF moment.
Yeah.
So it's just, I always say just have more than one pair of glasses, that lenses which you're looking from.
Yeah.
We're given one, and then we think that that's the one that we use for our whole life.
Yeah.
It's like the hammer analogy. I tell people in my workshops, we're given a hammer and we used it to fix a problem in our youth, and it worked. Mm-hmm. But then we forgot that there were other tools in the tools box. So now we're using a hammer to like fix the refrigerator. We're using a hammer to fix the window. And
Oh, I
not
like that.
realizing the hammer was for the nail.
That's it.
And
Only
that's
for
it.
nail. Yeah.
There's a wrench, there's an
Yeah.
Allen wrench, there's an Allen key, there's like,
Mm.
but the hammer felt so good when we used it that we're like, oh, this is work for everything. And then we're just going around breaking shit with the hammer, not realizing like, yeah, no, hammer doesn't work for
The
everything.
hammer's not going to work for everything. No.
No.
Nor is the blowtorch.
Nope.
You know? Nope.
Now the blowtorch is good for something, just not for everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I love that. That's hysterical. I'm gonna have to use my other tools in my little
In your
nifty
toolbox.
little toolbox.
Yep. That's
love it.
and that's the goal. You want to keep adding things to your toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us are unwilling to add things to our toolbox because the tool that we have feels so freaking good. Even if we look like a menace with the tool sometimes. We're like,
yeah. Yeah, you just don't realize. Like people are just like blindly just hammering shit away, right?
yes, we all do.
Yeah.
And every now because it's easiest, right? You know how the hammer works.
Mm-hmm.
You got a good result from the hammer. So it's like, well, I got the result once.
Mm-hmm.
So this must be the thing I can use and it'll help me again. But then we're just attached to the emotion of it. We're not necessarily attached to the true result. We're attached to how the hammer makes us feel, not necessarily the results that we get.
Yeah. That is beautiful.
You got me all in here like like Sunrise is dropping all of the stuff. Yes.
Well, see, this is why these conversations are beautiful, because all kinds of gems are getting, coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what you should put your hammer away. Put your hammer away.
I'm gonna have to implement a hammer into this like podcast.
Just go like this.
Yeah, just a hammer, like a little gift, like a little hammer animation. I gotta find one.
Going over and over again.
Oh my God, I love these. We have to do like a series of these.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm down.
Yeah. Even if it's like quick little ones, because I know you're a busy woman, so we gotta do like little quick ones. Little snippets of gems, daily gems.
Daily gems, you can break them up.
Mm-hmm. Or weekly gems, right? Weekly gems or whatever.
Well, I think in this time we probably got like some monthly gems in this one alone.
Yeah, in this one alone, we're just gonna break this all apart. This will be like
part 1, part 2.
Part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, like little shorts of all of these gems.
Relationships, dealing with trauma,
hammers,
communication.
Yeah, we got a lot of gems here. See, this is beautiful. I love it so much, and it's been a pleasure. Anything else you want to add in there? Any other tips and
no,
just coming up?
Nope. People should just check me out at Doc Sunny Inspo on IG, Doc Sunny on Facebook. And, they can also go to my website, www.drsunnerys.com.
I love it. And your podcast is, how many do you have out now?
Well, I just have 3 snippets on my YouTube channel, and it's Wake Up with Dr. Sunrise.
Ooh,
so
I love it.
Waking folks up, keeping folks spiritually woke.
That sounds like a beautiful show.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to take some of this and we'll pop it over there too, so that everyone can check us both out. Yeah,
I totally agree. I love it. Congratulations. I'm so happy that you got it out there, and we will chat again. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, love.
Bye. Right? These are great things that we learn from each other. So every conversation, every story that we tell, just like Ma'ar Hustle said, like every story will help, every story will heal. And it's the art of living. It's the art and hustle.
Yeah, look at you. Look at you on brand. On brand.
Also, I just want to say that our conversation was honestly one of the best conversations I've had, where I felt like I was more in tune to myself. So I thank you for that, because it was one of the perfect podcasts, because obviously I've just started this, right? But that conversation put honestly everything in alignment of how I was speaking and how I was articulating. I was like, wow, this sounds good. Like, I'm like, wow, I'm not that bad at this. Like,
Not at all, kid. You're doing
Right?
pretty good. From where I'm sitting, you're doing pretty good.
Then it went into like finally getting back to me, my art. All I want to do is art. And the other thing is that I love stories. So like to me, art isn't everything. Your art is your voice, your speaking, your connection. You can feel everyone's energy. That's your art. It's the art of living to me. So art and hustle to me is the art of living and art of it and everything.
I hope that you cut that piece right there and make it your intro and your outro, because that was dope.